Hey guys, it's Cece, and today I am going to be doing for you a monthly recommendations video. So Monthly Recommendations is a group that was created by Kayla at Kayla Rain and Trina from Between Chapters, and it is just a group where at the beginning of each month we get a theme and we choose a few books, however many we want, there isn't really a limit, to recommend based on that theme. And it's been really fun. I did it last month with trilogies, and that was a really great video, and so I'm very excited to continue being part of this group. I will leave links to both of the creators' channels below, as well as the Goodreads group, so you can check them out and join, and yeah. So this month's theme was kind of interesting. It was just books that we really think should be on people's TBRs next year. The books that we feel most passionately should be read by you guys next year. So here's what I tried to do with this video. First of all, I didn't want to just make it books from this year because I think that would be far too big a sneak peek into my favorite books of the year, which I'll be doing later on this month. But also, I didn't want to just list my favorite books of all time because still haven't done that video yet. What I wanted to focus on with this video is books that I've really loved and books that I think will be enjoyed by like a very wide variety of people. Also, I tried to get a pretty wide variety of genres in here because it's just what I like to do. So let's just get right into these recommendations. I have 10 of them for you. So the first one I would like to recommend to you is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is a fantastic fantasy book that takes place in Victorian times at a circus, and there are magicians and like forbidden love. Not forbidden exactly, but like still probably shouldn't fall in love, I guess. This book is so magical and so well written, and I know that a lot of people have read this book already, but it is necessary to me to try to pass this book on to as many people as possible because it is just so magical and so beautifully well written, and it should be something that you read next year if you haven't yet, or maybe it should be a reread next year because I've kind of wanted to reread this book. It was really great. Next up, I want to recommend another fantasy book, and that is The Rook by Daniel O'Malley. I think that this book will be slightly less well known than The Night Circus, but this book is so fantastic. This is kind of an adult fantasy book. It takes place in modern times, and it follows this girl. I believe her name is Miffany, if I remember. I'm pretty sure it's Miffany. I think she said it rhymed with Tiffany. Anyway, Miffany, and she wakes up one day and she has no memory of who she is, and so she tries to go to work and piece together her life because she has a bunch of letters from herself that are like, you've forgotten who you are, this is who you are. So she's trying to piece together her life, and as it turns out, she works out at an agency that solves like paranormal and fantastical crimes. This book is so funny and fantastic and weird and interesting, and this was the first book, which I really love, and I'm so excited because there's going to be a sequel called Stiletto coming out next year. Can't wait to pick it up. This book was so good. Next up, I want to mention one of my personal all-time favorites, and that is Brewster by Neal Shusterman. Brewster is such a good book. It is YA contemporary with like the smallest hints of fantasy, just a little bit. A tiny bit. Brewster follows two fraternal twins named Bronte and Tennyson, and also a new kid who is named Brewster. Bronte and Brewster sort of get involved in a relationship, and Bronte really feels the urge to fix things, and so Brewster is initially kind of her fix-up project, but he is so much more than that, and he has a brother that he's really protective of, and he also has a lot of these secrets that he's keeping within himself. This is such a good book. This is such a good exploration of family and such an excellent exploration of a character like Brewster, and I wish everyone would read this book because it is so beautiful. Next up, I want to recommend some YA contemporary, and is actually a book that I read this year and adored, and that is The Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily M. Danforth. This book is about a girl named Cameron Post who lives in Montana in the early 90s, and she falls in love with a girl, and it is about her journey as being a lesbian in Montana in the 90s, which was a rough time for that, and it is also her dealing with the fact that within like the first page, I think you find out her parents died in a car crash, and like the first thing she feels is that she's relieved they never had to find out that she kissed a girl, which is just this book is an emotional ride to deal with, but it is really beautifully written. For a YA contemporary, it's very bulky and long, but it's a very good exploration of Cameron Post as a character and sort of the mentality of her family members. She has an extremely religious aunt, which is also a problem for her, just being who she is, and this was just one of my favorite books that I read this year. It will definitely be in my favorites of the year when I do that video. Next up, I want to recommend one of my favorite books of all time again, and that is The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. This is adult literary fiction and is perfect for people who love to read. This book follows a woman named Margaret, and she is suddenly invited to come and write the biography of a famous writer named Vida Winter. And Vida Winter's most famous book is a book called like the 13 Tales, I think, but what's interesting about the book is that there are only 12, and so there's this real mystery around Vida Winter, and the whole book is just Vida telling this really dark sort of gothic story to Margaret, and it's an exploration of siblings and family, and it is really dark and mysterious and absolutely beautifully written and so good. Next up, I want to recommend a graphic novel. Well, actually, it's a trade paperback, but yeah. I want to recommend to you Lumberjanes Volumes 1 and 2. I've read more because I actually read Lumberjanes as single issue comics. It's one of my absolute favorites, so I read it as they come out in single issue comics. This series, I don't know why people on BookTube don't love this series. It is amazing. It's written by Shannon Waters, Grace Ellis, and Noelle Stevenson. Noelle Stevenson is the person who wrote and did the art for Nimona, which I know has been a huge thing here on BookTube this year. Noelle Stevenson also did the art for the cover of Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. Lumberjanes is about a group of girls who goes to this summer camp, which I can't remember the full name for, and it's infuriating me because it's hilarious. But it's about these 5 girls who are best friends and go on these crazy adventures, and there's some kind of weird thing going on at their summer camp, and this book is really diverse. 2 of the characters are gay, and I believe one later on is trans. I refuse to say that that is a spoiler because you should know going in. One of these characters is a trans girl, and that's amazing also. So the series is absolutely amazing. It's so great for female characters. All of them are so strong. It's great for younger kids. It's great for older kids. Everyone should read Lumberjanes, and every time someone doesn't like Lumberjanes, I get so sad and angry because this is not a childish series. This is such an important and beautiful series. I really need to catch up because I'm a few issues behind. Next up, I thought I would recommend some Stephen King to you, and I want to recommend The Green Mile, which is actually a book that came out as a serial novel, so there are 6 books that are like 100 pages long, or you can read it as a whole bind-up. I read it as the 6 separate books, but yeah, it's really up to you. And if you haven't seen the movie with Tom Hanks, it's a fantastic movie, but this takes place, when is it? Like the 60s? Maybe the 50s or 60s? I can't remember when it takes place. But it takes place in a place called the Green Mile, which is where the prisoners who have been sentenced to death are, and it follows the main guard there along with the other guards, and there is this prisoner who's brought in who's really interesting, and he has been accused of murdering these 2 little girls and other things. But it is so good. This book is amazing. It has some fantasy elements, which I'll let you know now, but this is just one of my favorite books, and it's probably my favorite Stephen King book that I've read, besides The Long Walk, which is also really excellent, but I just highly recommend that people go check out The Green Mile. Next up, another YA contemporary. That one is 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. This book follows a boy named Clay, and one day he comes home and he finds a box of tapes sitting on his porch, and when he plays the tapes, he hears the voice of a girl that he knew in school who just recently killed herself. And basically she says that the tapes are being passed around to people, and everyone who listens to them is in some way responsible for her death. So this is kind of a heavy book, but I know that it's really well loved, and I like to pass it along. I think that it's incredibly important. I think that 13 Reasons Why is an incredibly important look at teen suicide and sort of how everyone else should treat people. It's just a fantastic book. One of my favorites from last year, and so I recommend this book to everyone, and I think that this would be a great one for you to add to your TBR next year. Coming in at number 9, we have Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. This is a just super fun book that takes place in a bookstore that's open 24/7. It's fun, it's silly, it's an adventure, and I love this book. It's perfect for people who love to read, which is why I pass it on to as many people as I do. And again, this is another book that I've passed on to a lot of people, and everyone has just really, really enjoyed it. And I think that it's just a really fun read overall. And the last thing that I'm going to recommend is a series, and that is the Gone series by Michael Grant. There are 6 books in this series. I'm not going to be able to remember them all now. It's Gone, Hunger, Lies, Plague, Fear, Light. Those could be in the wrong order, but I think that those are the 6 books. And this is a series that starts out right at the beginning on this beach town in California, and one day, without warning, all of a sudden, every single person over the age of 15 vanishes. Like, in the middle of talking, from their cars, they're just gone. When the rest of the remaining people go out to try to find what's happened, they find out that they are now trapped inside this weird dome and they can't see out. And beyond that, now that the dome is up, people start developing powers. This book is not, I know that I just said that all of the characters are below 15. This is not like a children's book. This is not a middle grade book. It is YA, but this series is so dark. These books got so dark that it was sometimes just like difficult to read, and I love that. I love when YA books are willing to get dark and willing to explore these really dark characters, and this was just a really fantastic series. It is one that I would like to reread. I believe that it has been optioned for a TV series, and that is sort of in the works, but it's going really slowly, but I just wish that more people had read Gone. So there you go. Those are the books that I really think should be on your TBRs for 2016. Those are 10 books that I highly recommend for a lot of different reasons, and I just want to spread the love. I want to encourage you all to enjoy these books as much as I have. Let me know down below what book you are most excited to read going into 2016. And of course, thank you for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!